Keeli, Stith, thank you for being here for this award and recognition. You are now one of the 40 fast and future leaders of surgical services in the country. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
And as you know, there's our firm, Whitman Partners. We recruit only directors of surgical services positions, and we talk to directors of surgical services all day, every day. And so there's the cream of the crop in terms of young, bright up-and-comers that are going places in their career and life, and you are one of those. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
So before we get started, I'm just curious if you could just give us a little bit about your career progression to this point.
Absolutely. I started off in 2004 as a bedside nurse here at Ohio State University and working in a step-down unit. Worked with thoracic patients and neurosurgery patients. Did that for a couple of years and decided to go to Canada, Toronto, Canada. And I think that's where my career just catapulted, Brian. I did ICU, neuro ICU as a frontline nurse. Did education, mentoring, preceptoring, decided that I wanted to be an educator because I love the art of teaching at the bedside. And surgery just found me. I was a corporate educator, and then there was a role for a surgical educator in orthopedics and same-day surgery. And really loved working with the surgeons. And it was mostly the post-op side of it and recovery phase. I decided I wanted to go and get my master's, thought, okay, I'm going to be a family nurse practitioner. Got my master's at York University in Toronto and practiced for about a year or two. Didn't really like outpatient clinic type of setting. Really loved the art of management, hospital administration. Decided to take a turn and discover management. And I'll tell you, I applied for a manager position 8 times. 8 times before I could actually get a manager position. It took me a while to get in. And so I actually went as a patient care coordinator, which is an assistant nurse manager. And worked at Princess Margaret Hospital for about 9 months. I needed to get that assistant nurse manager experience and did that in a breast clinic. It was the breast clinic and plastics. Did that and went over to a community teaching hospital, which was very interesting concept. Community Catholic teaching hospital. Mm-hmm. And worked as my first manager job was it was a short stay unit, 24-bed short stay unit. And decided I knew that I wanted to progress. I knew that I wanted a bigger portfolio, bigger budget, and had decided for myself, okay, I'm going to be in this role for no longer than a year. Needed a platform to just have some baseline foundations of the business side of management. Mm-hmm. And an ICU position came up as an ICU manager for their med-surg unit, which was a 18-bed ICU med-surg. And I'll tell you right now, Brian, it was the hardest job I ever took in my life. Had a lot of not only, I want to say, organizational challenges with bed occupancy, but it was the culture. As you know, critical care is a very high stress unit. And the culture with the staff, the morale was low. The staff engagement was low. They did a lot of cutbacks of nursing jobs. And so it was my opportunity to show them that I could change the culture, look at the budget. They had consistently been over budget for like $2 million every year, consistently over budget. And I was able to right size the staff. I built my own internal critical care flow pool and worked on some unit council, got them their unit council up and running. Their charge nurses had a cluster of charge nurses put them through leadership training. And although the culture, as you know, culture takes 5 years to shift. I was able for the first time in their years there, it's been over a decade where they were able to balance the budget. I was able to balance the budget. So I was very successful there. But I knew that management was just going to be something that's just a stepping stone for me. Decided then to get back into the academic setting, went back downtown away from the community setting, went back downtown to PACU, short stay, pre-admission. And very quickly did I realize, like, okay, I'm ready to take a director position. This is great, but I'm at the point where I'm mentoring other managers. What's out there for me? My family's in Columbus, Ohio. Decided, hey, this is an opportunity for me to get back here. A associate director position popped up. It's a new role here at Ohio State. And so this particular portfolio, I am the associate director for surgery prep and recovery. So where our patients come in and be they're prepped. And then I also have our PACU, and I have our operating room, which we have 17 operating rooms, and it's a level 1 trauma center, as well as I have our extended recovery unit. So, and that's a 24-hour stay. So this is really the platform that I want to continue to progress in my career. I love this role. It gives me the autonomy to still be very frontline as a leader, and then also be close to executive leaders. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you. That was well said, and what a journey from going to Canada and back. We don't see that a lot. But you mentioned a couple things that I found interesting. Your first manager position, you said you had to apply 8 times. We're finding it increasingly difficult for, aspiring managers to actually get their foot in the door. So I'm curious, on that 8th time, what was it that gave you the break, or how did you break through that wall? Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I had an interesting journey because I didn't have the opportunity to be a charge nurse. I went from frontline to education, and a lot of times organizations want to see you have either a charge nurse experience or assistant nurse manager experience. And so what that breakthrough meant for me was I had to take a lateral move. And a lot of people who want to get into management, and I see it right now, we got some great frontline staff. They want to be managers, but I need to be an assistant nurse manager. So sometimes it may look like your salary may be lateral, or you may lose money in the long run, or you're making less. But in the long term, the experience that you're getting, it'll catapult you to be able to take that next position. So I think you just got to eat a dose of humble pie. What for me, it was like, okay, I'm going to be making less as assistant nurse manager from an educator, but I bought myself the time and the experience to know that was what was needed or required for me to be in a manager position.
So eating that humble pie, and so then when you're mentoring leaders that are considering management, is that sort of your recommendation is, look, it's going to be tough in the beginning. It might be perceived as a lateral move, both career and financially, but in the long run, it'll pay off.
Absolutely. And until you actually walk in a manager's shoes for a day or a week, I know a lot of nurses feel that they can do what a manager does until they get in that role and they're like, oh gosh, I wish I was an assistant nurse manager or a charge nurse for a while. Leading people is very different than leading a patient. So yeah.
And you go ahead and keep going on that leadership piece. That's what I was going to ask about.
I think that nurses by nature, we're very good at taking care of people. And so by that transition, they automatically assume that I know that I can take care of people in a way from a manager or employee. That's 2 different things. 2 separate realms. So just having those conversations, we do have currently, and I love the model here at Ohio State, is that we have leads positions. So you can go from a so let's say a surge tech to a surge tech lead to a supervisory, and then we have a manager position. Same with our assistant nurse managers, nurse manager, associate director, director. And that is a great model and a great way to transition because it's such a big leap to go from a charge nurse to a manager. It's a huge leap.
So having those in between steps along the way. And how long are you in each step for, ideally?
It's hard to say. I mean, depends. I mean, I think as a manager, as a new manager, it just depends on your size of your portfolio. I have managers now that I know for, let's say I have assistant nurse manager. I give him 12 to 24 months, maybe 12 to 18 months, because I know it's not the hard skills for him, it's the soft skills. You know, and a lot of the up and coming nurse managers who are, it's not millennials anymore, it's Gen Z or whatnot, they're good at technology.
Yeah.
They're great. So, you know, I sit them down, I'm like, here's our new software. And they're like, I got it. So it's really just the people skills. So that's really that 12 to 18 months consistent leadership. So I like to see him in a manager position right after that. Same with the manager that's in that position now. She's done some leadership, but again, she's very good with the data. She gets the business side. So I mean, you know, this day and age, Brian, they move fast. I mean, 2 years. Managers, you know, are gone the days of managers retired after 30 years in management, unless they absolutely love it. But it's just healthcare's changing.
And you know, you mentioned unless they absolutely love it, and when we are talking to a lot of nurses that are on the fence about do they want to get into leadership or just stay frontline, and we're hearing a lot of no, thank you, it's not for me. You know, why do you think that is?
Pressure. It's the pressure, right? So you got the hospital side of we need to retain nurses, we need to recruit, but you got this salary band over you, right? You got the piece of we need more capacity and bed capacity and make room, you know, pressure doctors to turn over, you know, length of stay quicker. It's just a lot of pressure. It's not an easy, it's not like you're managing people in a bank. These are high stress environments. What I would like to see is that undergraduate schools put in some sort of business in their undergraduate degrees. Because if you start to expose nurses at a younger stage in their career, they're not afraid of it. You know, we're taught conflict resolution with patients or with another colleague, but we're not taught in an early stage of how to manage it from, you know, leader up, how to do, you know, top down, bottom top, whatever you like. But how do you be able to manage those conflicts? So I like to see something more in the undergraduate level and not wait till they get their master's or they get into a manager position or supervisor to then teach it. It's just, and you'll see that better in the day-to-day, the nurse-to-nurse relationships or surgeon-to-nurse relationship when you start to invest in some of that managerial relationships in undergrad.
Interesting. And that's a suggestion I haven't really heard before. And I didn't realize that, you know, when you're in your undergrad, it's more about dealing with exclusively with the patient, but not the internal leadership dynamics of the hospital.
And that's even our med schools. I mean, you hear about it, I think recently in the last 5-7 years, they've now started to put that in their medical, you know, in medicine for their med school students on how to manage business. Because, you know, and I hate to divert, but a lot of physicians don't know how to manage clinics and don't know how to manage their own business life and professional life. So just something to think about from a nursing perspective.
Great point. You mentioned pressure and stress as being barriers for young nurses climbing the leadership ladder. You also mentioned that it takes 5 years to shift a culture. I imagine those things are connected, right? So I'm curious, what have you found to be the most effective tools or techniques to improve culture? And then similarly, how would you be able to sort of take that stress out that would enable somebody to raise their hand and say, yes, I want to be a manager or a leader?
Well, you see it done in pockets, Brian, where I say that you'll see some organizations, they have a really robust mentorship program, or they'll have a really robust preceptorship program. And over here, they'll have really great health and wellness program.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're really good at doing things in pockets, but how do we actually put that around the four walls of our hospital or the four walls of our department to make it pillars of success? So until we actually put a whole, I envision a pinwheel or a flywheel of all the different things that actually support an individual or an employee to grow. It's health and well-being, it's mentoring, it's ability and the freedom to preceptor, it's committee work, and the commitment from the organization to allow employees or staff or nurses to get out to be able to do those things. We as nurses, we always push evidence-based practice, and we want our nurses to go out there and do poster presentations, and that drives leadership. But we're not committed as an organization to give them the time to be able to do that. It's borrowed time. So we're borrowing from patient care to be able to do that. So in this state of the state, our organizations and many organizations are just short staffed that we're at a point where we do the best we can with the evidence base. We do the best we can with getting folks off to leadership course or health and well-being and getting them time to just, my colleague around the corner, they have a one of those meditation rooms, quiet rooms. And so, great to have, but are we committed to let the staff to go there to have peace of mind? So I would like to see more unity or formality in a lot of the projects that we do, and really be committed to it at a department level versus, here's the next initiative of the year and we're going to try as much as we can to get people to it or invited to it or get that opportunity for them to learn about, etc. So that's how I kind of see it. It needs to be a full package.
And committed to it. Yeah, it's not good if you have a meditation room that's collecting dust. So I understand what you mean. You mentioned a mentorship. Do you have a mentor, and how did they help you? And are you currently mentoring anyone?
Oh, yeah. So I've had informal mentors. I've never sat down and said, Brian, you're going to be my mentor today. For me, mentoring, for me to mentor someone and for someone to mentor me, it has to be a vibe. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
And that's not always easy to find. And so I would say I don't have a formal mentor, but I do have people that I like to connect with. Does that make sense? I've had mentors that were great for me in Toronto, in Canada, and it made sense. And then I've had, informal mentors here. I've approached my ACNL and I would love for you to mentor me. And we haven't sat down specifically and said, here's your goals. But there's someone I can actually go to and talk through scenarios. She's really good about, I told her, because she knows I want to be, the next senior director. And so what is it? 1, 2, 3. What are those 3 things you need? And so we sat down and we wrote those down. And so, those opportunities will get flushed out in front of me. Here you go. You want to be yellow belt, lean. Here you go. So I think that is where I encourage people from a mentorship, is to find somebody you connect with. Don't just follow the fact that they're in a leadership role or they have certain letters or credentials behind them, but someone that you can actually be honest and open with, and be available for them to give you feedback. Currently, I am not formally mentoring, but for me, I like to say I'm an informal mentor. And same as I approach, I have managers that I like to see grow and develop. And we have great conversation talks about career, different development courses. One thing that I am committing to January 2022, we have a program in Columbus. It's actually a school. It's a prep school that it's more of a school that it's job training. So it's an ability for you to connect with someone in a field that you may have some interest with. So I don't know much about it, Brian. I've got the 2 instructors, so I'm going to commit to taking a high school student. And that's going to be my way to get back to the community. And, if I'm looking for a commitment to do something like once a week and working with them, how to build their resume, seeing how do meetings are ran, what do nurses and healthcare do at executive level, so that's going to be my commitment. That's my 2022 goal.
It's good to say it out loud too.
Yeah.
Now you're being recorded, so you
I'm
have to
being
do
recorded, so I better. But I'm
to shift gears, I'm curious, do you often find yourself thrown into an antiquated system or policy? And if so, how do you try to phase them out?
Well, if you haven't recognized, I work at the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center, and it is the most antiquated system, and in a good way, right? So we have, if I could just give you context, I'm at the University Hospital. We have the Ross Heart Hospital, which is right next door. We have the James, which is in another corner, the James Cancer Hospital, and then we have same-day surgery, and I'm probably forgetting another one. It's us. We'll just say us. And on top of that, we're building 2 ambulatory centers. So there is so many policies, they intersect, they contraindicate, and one leader can just get so frustrated. And anytime you want to move something forward, it just takes a while. And it's not necessarily always a bad thing because you want everyone to be engaged. But how I try to get things out of the way is, it's building that relationships with people. And one of the great things I think I'm good at is building relationships with folks who are outside of my domain. So if you are someone that works in Dodd Rehab, and every once in a while you send me patients, I'm going to find you and we're going to have a great conversation. At the end of the day, you're going to know, I can't remember her name, but she had really cool hair and glasses. and so that's just how I kind of, it's just getting to know the people in that area. And that's how I'm able to really try to dissolve some of that, those barriers of trying to move initiatives forward or problems out of the way for the staff. The other thing is, anytime we are rolling something out or anytime we're creating an initiative, it is so important to identify the stakeholders. And that's what's difficult here at Ohio State is trying to find who does what and where are they, because if it's not the university side, they could be on the clinical side. And so it's really trying to navigate to get those folks at the table, to have that buy-in and that feedback. And that's really, it can eat you up and swallow you and make you so exhausted. But it doesn't have to be if you have the people relationships and you understand who do you actually need to go after to talk to and politic with them.
Well said. What is your 2022 wish list for your OR, and what are you going to do to achieve those goals?
My 2022 wish list, when I saw the question, I immediately thought of something operational. And then as you talk to me now, my 2022 goal is for the OR is to be the best place to work in Ohio. It is the best place to work where we don't have a problem recruiting people. We got people knocking on our door. We got people that want to stay because this is the greatest place to work in Ohio. How are we going to get there? I think we're on our way. I really do. This is a very tough department, Brian. And I think it's tough for many reasons. We are the Ohio State. We get a lot of all the sickest patients. We're open 24/7. So when all the other pavilions are closed or when all the other hospitals are on divert, we're the ones that's taking everybody. And it's daunting for the staff. But I want us to get to a point where we have the team here, we have the staff here. And so that's my 2022 is to get the staff in here. The staff that we do have here, we're taking care of them. And I just talked to my director today, and I said, I'm no longer the days where I'm like, oh, okay, we'll do the best we can. No, I want to make my staff happy. Mm-hmm. Yes, we want to give patient care, but this is now, and I can say this to you, employers are now the candidates. We're the candidates now. So when I'm interviewing you're actually interviewing me because you got 4 other hospitals on the table. Right. So how can I take care of the staff here? And so we're doing all that we can. We look at our schedule. We look at our on-call schedule. We're thinking of different on-call approaches with we coming up with a hybrid model where our call teams are able to be on call for several different services and not just one service. So we've got some input from staff through surveys of what's important to them. Culture is another one. Really committed to it's the high stress. People aren't always kind to each other. So changing, I have a 0 tolerance, and the managers know as well. We have a 0 tolerance for bullying. There is a 0 tolerance. If we hear about it, you're brought in the office, you're talked to. So again, it's really just taking care of the people.
So it sounds like you just shifted your goal to taking care of the people. Just a second.
Yeah. No, it just the whole reflection as I'm talking about everything.
Well, and I hear it every single day from hospitals across the country. The burnout is real. It's everywhere. Staffing is a major problem everywhere. Mm-hmm. And like you said, candidates are looking at Ohio State, but they have 4 others they can go to. And so what can you do to differentiate, and how do you build that culture and team and respect and get down to the basics of taking care of people?
Absolutely. We're building a brand new surgical tower. It's going up in 2024. And I was getting ready to say, just a new place, a new building, a new bright lights. I'm like, you can build the building, you can have all the great equipment, but if you don't have the team in here and you have a team that doesn't they don't like to work with each other, or they can't work well, what's the point? And it could be bright and shiny and they could still hate it here.
Mm-hmm. That's perfectly said. Okay, Keeli. Well, I've loved talking to you. It's been a pleasure. I know you're incredibly busy, so to take time out of your day to talk about these things, I hope you found it enjoyable. Again, congratulations on being 40 Fast and Future Leaders of Surgical Services. You're in with the cream of the crop and up and comers in the country, and so your voice matters. You say the right things, and most importantly, lead by example. So thank you for all you're doing.
Yeah, no, thank you for giving me the opportunity. It's always great to work with Whitman Partners. Appreciate you guys.